this is a gallery tree that is called Bodies, Faces and People, and well, in the pre-Hispanic era there were representations of people throughout the sculptures and faces and many tools, as you can see, and they were created from the Olmecs to the Mexicas, and well, we have here a lot of examples of it. Well, as you can see, one of the most important practices in Mesoamerica was agriculture, and they had big spaces where they have a lot of crops like beans and squash. And also one of the most famous practices in Mesoamerica was mural paintings. As you can see here, we have an example. This is a scene of a fight between gods. And well, these are the costumes that they had in the society in Mesoamerica in those times.
Here we are entering into the war zone. There was thought that the Teotihuacanos and the Mayas were peaceful, but the war was constant in Mesoamerica. Each group or each area of the city has to give a group of warriors to the government. So when the war was come, they had to fight for the city, and there was a group of elite that was called eagles or jaguars that helped to define battles. The ones that were captive were used to sacrifice to the gods, so there was a really important ceremony after the war. The captives were sacrificed to honor the gods. You are entering to the writings. The writings were really important because they helped to record every astronomical, political, or military events. The first to create some kind of writings were the Olmecas, but the ones that have the most number of writings were the Mayas. This is a representation from a writing. As you can see, there was no letters, but there were codes that represent letters and words. How do you think that this was written?
From upwards to downwards?
Yes, it's from up to down, but it's from left to right. So you start here, then you go right, down, left, right, and so on. And this is Mayan inscription from the period of 600 to 900 before Christ.
All the Mesoamerican cities have a zone of temples, maybe dozens of it, and generally there was one of them on the highest point. It was dedicated to the main god, like the gods of war and life, and each god has a specific group ethnic which temples was built on the pyramids, and over the temples and on the roads there were palaces and monasteries, and here we have some pieces of art of the ancient time of Mesoamerica, from the Olmecs to the Aztecs time.
We are in room number 7, and this room is dedicated to death. As we know, death was important for Mesoamericans. They believed that it was necessary for continuing life, but it is equally true that they were afraid of the death and they mourned their deaths They have a lot of different costumes. For example, the Mayas used to bury their deads in their houses, and also the kings were buried, and they constructed monuments for honoring them. So that was important in Mesoamerica, and although they were afraid of it, they faced death with braveness.
Well, here we have a timeline, which is a very useful tool to identify what was happening on the other parts of the world. Meanwhile, we have the Mesoamerican time. For example, when the Old Mex was established on Mexico or ancient Mexico, there was a great empire of Egypt with the temple of Ramses II. In the meanwhile, the Olmecs was sculpturing his huge head. There was governing Ramses II on Egypt. And this is a very useful tool, as I said, to identify the main ancient times in the world.
The Museo Amparo permanent collection encompasses the most manifestations from the past, as well as the most recent sensible expressions. The Visceral and 19th century collection is comprised of diverse works made during Mexico's Novohispano period and since its independence through the 90s. The works were created with varying motives and intentions that range from the expressing religious fervor to achieve comfort by creating a cozy Victorian sofa.
The recent restaurants are including this style of architecture to restaurants because in psychology it translates you to your grandmother's house. So in this way you can or should eat more and pay more or drink more.
The building is a property in which is a group of different buildings, conceived for a variety of uses through the centuries. In the beginning, it was known as the Hospitalito, dedicated to San Juan de Letrán. And around 1642, the Bishop of Palafox and Mendoza referred the new hospital to a school for girls. In 1991, it turned into what we know now. Espinosa Iglesias found the Museo Amparo in the name of his wife, Amparo, which it was opened in February of 1991.
This space is known as the Mexican Harbor. Well, as you can see, these rooms have the decorations from the 19th and part of the 20th century. They used to decorate walls and ceilings with ornamental decorations, as you can see. And also there was a presence of images of saints and gods and the virgins. So you can see the comparison between the Mesoamerican time and the colonial time that is the rooms we have now.
In the colonial time, the Spanish used the religion to conquistate this country by imposing a new religion in Mesoamerica or in ancient Mexico or Spain. And they used the famous image of the Virgen de Guadalupe. There was a history or a myth that the Indio Juan Diego discovered the image of the Virgin of Guadalupe, and he went to the bishop of that time, who were Fray Juan de Zumárraga, and he slit his clothes. The Virgin appears on his ayate. It is important to recall that the same ayate, or the same image of that Juan Diego presented to Fray Juan de Zumárraga is the same image that's still on Basilica de Guadalupe nowadays.
This exhibition is called Rastros y Vestigios, and is supposed to be a mise-en-scène that questions the value of the history by making evident the mutability, leaving open the possibility of questioning and replacing current interpretations. Middle. In the middle of our time, there were so many battles, so many kinds of fights, friends and brothers rock before they knew what hit them. Children went away as they made their first war cries, and the unfocused enemy. We sang for our children and we saddled hornets in the carol stampede. Much passed by us, and friends lost the use of their hands, but in dances come from anguish expressible only by bodies we held concealed with the universe. The stars, eagles, loons, and coyotes sang, "Time is with you, history is on your side." Trees gave seeds and rocks encouraged.
Now we are on the exhibition named Fortuna by William Kendrick. William Kendrick presents his art from the late 1980s to the present, for grounding the way that his mediums and disciplines inform and reflect one another. Part of an artistic process marked by continuous fluidity, found in transformation and movement. Kendrick embraced the notion of fortuna, which he described as something other than cold statistical change, yet something outside the range of rational control.
In the art of William Kendrick, the people who carry burdens appear often in their work. This is because William Kendrick thinks that the physical work is an important thing and represents who we are. For him, the important thing wasn't the destination when the trouble ends. The important thing for William was the path that the people have to go through to a destination that in the end they don't know where you are going to end.
Well, this exhibition, as you can see, represents a result of a graphical experience with the purpose of fostering consciousness about defending the fight against the imposition of transgenic crop and to convert it in the base of the alimentary system of the Mexican. So I want to remind you that it is important to defend the culture of crops and to defend also the agriculture in Mexico, that it's so rich and it's so necessary for us as a population.